Hello, Grimoire. Oh, can you hear them? I can't see them. They're little, I think they're little blue tits. I can't actually see them, but they're in the tree somewhere. So it's really nice that you can hear them now. How are you doing? Good to see you on another one of these. Still just getting set up if anybody is joining. Just making sure audio, everything is working. I also want to make sure I have a few links up that people always ask about. Made that mistake. Yeah, the birds are really active right now. So if you're hearing a lot of chirping in the background, there's nothing I can do about it. I can't make my mic any better. And they're pretty loud. I actually have baby jackdaws. There's a nest, and I have this huge wall of ivy. And there's little baby birds in there. And wow, they are so loud. So are their parents. They decided to nest in my garden, but here we are. And actually, if you viewed my Instagram story this morning, I had baby ducklings also come to my back door, and I fed them some sunflower seeds. So that was super nice. Oh, good. You're stressed. Oh, I'm a little bit stressed as well. People have been driving me absolutely crazy at work this week. I guess I'm not stressed more than just agitated, maybe. But yes, I feel like I've been correcting like all week, but needing to provide like solid rationale as to why we needed the correction. But my holiday was super nice. Went to Iceland and it was otherworldly. I don't know where you guys are from, but Iceland is absolutely insane. So all the pictures, everything about Iceland, it's very real. Like you can go for miles and miles on just like pure lava fields, and then they have moss that's 300 million years old, and then you're like in rolling hills with these like absolutely gorgeous Icelandic horses. That's apparently a very unique thing, and they have a very particular gait and stuff like that. And then the weather absolutely changes every 5 minutes, which I feel like everyone says in their like. Look, I know I say that here for the Netherlands as well, but Iceland really does like change like drastically. I think, yeah, we saw it hail and then be sunshine and then be extremely windy, like dangerous windy, all in the same day. Yeah, you saw the pictures on Instagram. I'm meant to post more, but I'm going to do a few more posts on from my Iceland trip. But yeah, the landscape is absolutely stunning. I learned that when they were doing the moon landing back in the 60s, they actually shipped the American astronauts to Iceland to do training. And we were out where they theoretically did it because it was like top secret or whatever. But it was so much, it was like the closest thing I feel like they could get to the moon's surface in Iceland. So they like shipped all the astronauts there to like train, which is so bizarre, but it does actually look like the surface of the moon. So I can see why at the same time. From my side, it's work, then thinking from my side, it's work, and then thinking AI will make me output two legacy product redesigns into one in 1 month. Wow, not fun. Yeah, I can imagine. Yikes. Yeah, legacy products are rough to work on. It's like there's so much opportunity for it to improve, but then it's also so ungodly slow to work in most of the time, and so many constraints because of all the debt and things that exist in it. So, yeah, legacy is rough. Sometimes it's literally unavoidable as well. You have to work around so much that a lot of the time, the output that you can give as new UX or whatever, sometimes, and most of the time, isn't even that great. Like it's small improvements at best. But cool. Got quite a few people joining on TikTok, which is awesome. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, I just do these things regularly to allow access to my experience and knowledge for the UX and product design industry. So if you guys have any questions, what's going on in the UX field, I'm all ears and I will do my best to try to provide some advice. I've had some interesting kind of ad hoc topics come up. Is that bird not the loudest? I think that's Like I was telling you, I think that's one of the jackdoors. Literally, sometimes I have to take a broom outside and knock on the side of my house to scare them away because I literally can't have a meeting when they're just screeching. So I can't see him at the moment, but yeah. What are some things that have come up that I've helped and advised on? I spent a lot of time helping a lead designer who's looking to move up from lead look at how to do that to create like a career progression plan. If I had to put a name on it, that's what I would call it. So we're looking a lot at their objectives, looking at what the role definition of their current role is versus the next level, figuring out the skill gaps, a bunch of stuff like that, and setting like a really concrete structure in place. Yeah, so that's a big one. I think the biggest takeaway for me is how I don't know what your guys' experience are, but I've never expected my manager or any manager for that fact to outline exactly what you have to do as a designer who's looking to move up. Like step one, step two, step three. I have to caveat I haven't had good managers myself, but I've always found that you have to make a proposal. If I did these things, do you agree that it would put me at exceeding my role expectations? I've never heard of a manager like outlining it for you. But the perception I'm finding is that some designers do think that. They think that, yeah, managers will just sit there and give you the tasks in the program that the boxes you need to tick. And I've never found that to be the case. But I would be curious if any of you have an experience or thought on it. Yeah, because what actually works in terms of getting promoted and moving upwards. What else? I've been reviewing a few resumes this week as well. There was one designer, and she's actually a content creator. I won't say her name because I'll be interested if she shares any of the insights that I gave her. But yeah, she reached out because she's not getting a lot of traction on interviews, and I had a lot to say about her resume. Both at first glance and then both analyzing it through the lens of job descriptions versus what her actual content was and how I think the biggest thing it was scannability. It was quite dense. There was a lot of good information there, but it was hidden because it was just too much. And then just a little bit of the format as well. But she also sent me the updated version and it's exponentially better. I put my hiring manager cap on and read through it and I was like, oh wow, this is actually quite impressive for somebody at your level, which I can see it now because you've put it at the forefront for me. So that was super nice. Yeah, so that was nice to see. I have gotten a few messages this week about how rough the industry is as well. Just man, yeah, there's this designer. I think he has almost 5 years. Oh, nice. Speaking of resumes, it looks like I reviewed one of your resumes on Instagram. So that's pretty cool. Nice. Yeah, awesome. Oh yeah, so this guy has, I think, almost 5 years in the field and has worked for some really recognizable companies, but he's out looking for work right now and he is just getting no traction. He's getting traction. So his portfolio and resume to me isn't the problem because he's actually getting to the interview stage. But he's getting feedback right now that they're going in different directions with other candidates because they can get like a one for one experience they're looking for. We have this very explicit, exclusive problem. It's B2B, it's SaaS, it's finance, it's all these tiers of criteria. And because there's so many experienced designers in the market right now, they're able to cherry pick from and get basically exactly what they want, which is what I believe. I'm not necessarily looking for work right now, but I've heard that from a lot of folks. And that would also be my speculation for the market right now as well. Yeah, if you're like in that experience, like a little bit upper tier, mid, like senior level, there's so many out there. So you could be a really good designer, but maybe what differentiates you is that you look great, like generally solving a bunch of different problems, but then maybe somebody comes in and has solved 3 B2B SaaS finance problems. And it's theoretically they get up to speed faster. They already know the landscape, etc. So yeah, it's super, super tough. I don't think it's actually a reflection of your skills as a designer, but it's just, yeah, the reality of where we're at. But I would say the first thing that came to mind going back and forth with this guy was, I think, like for me, in my experience and having mentored a ton of people about this as well, your personality and cultural fit can overcome maybe some of those experience restrictions as well. If people walk out of an interview and they're like, dang, I really want to work with that person, because they are looking for somebody who's probably, for the most part, unless it's just like an HR general person, oh, wow, that person would really add value to this company, not just deliver a good looking design, a good solution. Then I feel like that, in my experience and others, has overcome maybe some like explicit experience gaps as well. Because your personality, as just, yeah, as it is, sometimes what sells you more than your actual experience. And that's why really have to let that shine, let the value that you would bring in be like prominent in an interview as well. It can't just be like, here's my resume, education, here's a design process. I did the thing and done. Like anybody can do that. So, anyways, okay, gonna look at some questions because a few of them have been coming through. Totally true about cultural fit and giving a good impression. It's super important. And I think it's really underplayed as well. Because if you just go in like any other designer, I can do this, can do that, especially right now in the market, you're not letting like what's unique about you really shine and come through. Yeah, you're going to be passed on for a candidate who might fit that mold like to a T, and they might be a little bit more memorable because they conducted their interview a little bit differently. What do we got in here? So, for a mid UX designer, what courses, certifications should I take to understand and get involved more on product and business side of things? That is a great question. And I actually have the perfect thing for you. I posted this, it's been, I think, 5 months ago now. But if you're looking to increase your product understanding, yeah, here it is. So I wrote this article for designers wanting to level up their product understanding, product strategy skills, which is all about, yeah, the business and kind of product side of things, understanding metrics. I have this article on Medium. I can link it and I can try on TikTok. I don't know if links work on TikTok though. I'll try to link it here, but I can't promise anything. But if you want it and you are a designer looking to increase your product strategy, I highly recommend that you start to look into that because it is a massively desired skill, particularly in big tech. I was actually just talking about this. So I'm speaking at a Value UX conference in September. And the topic is going to be all around how design speaks business. Like when design speaks business, people listen, everyone listens, especially senior execs, product counterparts. I'm going to link another article here because I think it's super helpful in starting to understand like how to start to think about numbers and stuff. Is the link not coming through on TikTok? Can you guys let me know? Because I don't see it in my actual chat, but I can, like on my laptop, I see it. Let me try. Let me know if it's, yeah. Mm. So I've sent 2 links now on TikTok, but I don't know if they actually come through or not. You gotta let me know. Because I can see them if I can see that they come through on YouTube, but yeah, I can't tell. But okay, just in case it's not working on TikTok, you can find it through the link in my bio. If you go and just check out my Medium or my Substack, it's in that list. But the one about product increasing your product strategy skills, particularly about courses and articles to read, that's on Medium. So go over there. It is called For Designers Wanting to Level Up Their Product Strategy Skills. For the newsletter I just shared, which is like that very introduction, like starting to think about metrics, that was my last newsletter post on Substack. So you'll be able to find that through the link in my bio. TikTok has some weird restrictions, so sorry if it's not coming through. But yeah, the courses in here. Yeah, so doing product strategy as a designer, super good article from this guy named Ted Goes. And it's starting to get you starting to think about it. But then there's some proper like product management, getting product strategy right courses. And it's all about seeing things through the lens of a product manager or product owner, whatever they call it in your company. so that you can find some good deals and stuff as well. There's obviously the O'Reilly UX strategy book, which is really good. And then the last one here is design strategy for creative professionals. I think I say in here, it looks really good. I haven't looked too much into it, but it's a domestic course. So that literally means you can get it for $1 sometimes when they're running deals. So couldn't hurt, definitely. But yeah, I think it's a good starting point if you want to get your feet wet a little bit. But definitely check out that recent newsletter I just wrote as well, because I really went through and created some really tangible examples of like how to start to articulate your designs through the product and business side as well, which yeah, I think I was going on about how, yeah, I'm doing this conference talk and it's all about, yeah, when design speaks business. Cause I talk a lot about this kind of 40% of your job as a designer is doing the actual design. And this is changing. I think I'm about to say 30/70 as we get more AI tools, more tools that can do the visual side quite well. We're not there yet, so I'm not saying it yet. But and then 60% of our actual job is selling UX. So what do you put into your arsenal? You put data, you put UX principles, you put business rationale. The second that you start speaking business rationale, whether you're a freelancer, whether you work in a design agency, you work in big, your arsenal is so much more powerful as a designer. Because if you go in and say, yeah, you guys got to check out this podcast I just did but I'm also going to repeat myself a lot because I just recorded it like an hour ago. The age old, I want to make the logo bigger. This happened to me so many times when I was working when I was freelancing doing clients. And what I would say is, oh, like people don't really remember your name. I had a dominance, hierarchy, information architecture, layout. I had all these kind of UX rationale as to why maybe you don't want to increase the size of your logo on your website. But I tell you what, if I was able to say, if your primary goal in this website is to actually increase your contact rate, you actually don't want to bring attention to your logo versus your primary CTA because it'll reduce your contact rate based off of these principles and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Yeah, I would think it's super powerful. And I do wish I had learned it earlier on, but now that I have it, I tell you what, it is so much easier to sell design decisions. Okay, checking. With vibe coded mockups in AI now faster than Figma, does UX UI go semi-extinct like typography, like a topographer? Wow, sorry. I was going to say typography and then I really got messed up. Extinct? No, because vibe coded mockups are not good. They're not good yet. They're okay, but I wouldn't say that will it become significantly less important and significantly smaller part of the job? Yes, absolutely. But there still needs to be rationale. Like I was just saying, there still needs to be rationale behind why this design is good. So it's going to become so much more important for a designer, not only just to potentially be able and probably do the grunt work of even understanding how to build a strong kind of UX UI, whether you do it through vibe coding or you just hit a prompt and there's a beautiful layout created for you, whatever the end method is or growing method is, you still need to be the one who comes forward. That AI tool isn't going to be the thing that goes to the team and says why this is a good solution or why it makes sense for what we're trying to achieve as a team or for our users or whatever. Can you use AI to come up with the reasoning for that? Yes, absolutely. I'm already doing that in my job. But the communication skills, the ability to confidently deliver a direction or tell why another direction might be bad, because people are always going to generate ideas as well. Oh, why don't we do this? Why don't we add that? Why don't we do this feature? Why don't we do X instead of Y? You still need to know how to answer those questions. You can't just sit there and prompt your way around it. It's actually really funny to envision, though. So will it become extinct like UX and UI? The visual kind of creation side of it? No, but it will become a smaller part of our job for sure. It's important to understand it. I fully believe that your ability to understand it comes by way of doing it, but I'm old school now because that's how I learned it. Maybe that won't be the case forever. But yeah, it's a good question. And the kind of scare, it's not going to happen tomorrow. Is it going to happen in 5 years time? Yeah, probably. But the scare of, oh, is it going to take our jobs? It's going to be a very slow and painful process. And you're going to have companies who are really fast at onboarding, probably fresh startups who can just don't have any legacy to work with. We were just talking about legacy, who can just get the new tool. They can work in something like Framer or Level or whatever and just generate an output that way. That's going to be extremely different experience than somebody who goes and works in a bank or in a government or in a large tech company, especially because the constraints that you have to work with as well in those bigger, more complex interfaces. Yeah, it's just going to be far more difficult to, like, yeah, if you want to generate just like a average branding, moderately complex site, yeah, some of the tools are going to be able to do that. But we've had templates in Squarespace and Wix and Framer for a long time now that basically does that. But when it gets like far more complex user experience, like B2B systems and stuff like that, you'll be able to do it at a small level. I don't think we'll ever get to the place where it has the ability to consider all aspects, think about constraints, think about efforts. How many devs do you have? Yes, things might be coded to a degree, but there'll always be a human element to it for sure. And somebody's got to sell the ideas. A great book to read is Lean Analytics to understand business side of a product. Lean Analytics. Okay, let me look it up. Lean Analytics. Is it designer friendly? I would love to ask that question because I don't necessarily love analytics in business. It's so important. And have I learned it? Yes. But sometimes some of the content out there is rough to get through. Yeah. Use data to build a better startup faster. Okay. So it's very startup centric. Okay. This book shows you how to validate your initial idea if you're trying to disrupt an industry, trying to provoke change from within. Okay. So that means it's applicable to not just startups. Your biggest challenge is creating product people actually want. Okay. Seems good. The blurb that I'm reading, that is. Okay. We have another book recommendation that I might add to that article. Thanks for the note. Love your content. I will look for you on Medium. Perfect. I highly recommend. I will say I haven't posted there in a while. I've confused myself. I've started on Substack and started posting my best content on Substack, unquestionably. I've really nailed it, guys. Really found a super solid format that people seem to be really responding to. But I'm left with, okay, now what do I post on Medium? So I'm a little bit lost just in the content generation side of things. I'm still trying to figure it out. Okay. They're good if you know the skills to prompt the changes you want. Yes. And that's what I was getting at. So like you have these kind of visual generation tools, but they're only as good as the person generating the ideas. If you just generate something, you're like, that looks good, but you don't actually know really how to challenge it further with additional prompts and critical thinking and all these different things, like, yeah, like you're still creating the visual, just not by moving individual pixels necessarily, but you still need to know why a visual is good and how it solves a problem or helps achieve a goal. So that prompting ability, rather than, yeah, moving an individual pixel or square, might turn into, this would not solve this problem. Please come up with another iteration of blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Still the fundamental thinking has to be there, regardless of the tool at hand or like the method in which to do it. Typographers once had hard skills. Now you draw the font and press a button. Yeah, I think I'm a huge fan of typography. And so I've looked a little bit, I've been to like the oldest letterpress in Belgium, not far from me and stuff like that. So I'm huge on that kind of stuff. But it's fascinating, like the technology and the evolution of typography. But yeah, they once had hard skills. Yeah, you once had to chisel out something from a piece of lead. Like the definition of a typographer changed immensely over a large that's actually a perfect example because it changed immensely over a very long period of time. Things change a lot more rapidly now, but it doesn't mean that things change tomorrow. And creating a font is still not just like a press of a button necessarily. Like to consider each individual character and even the like nuanced character, create a really solid typeset is actually not it's exponentially easier than it was like in the 80s or 70s, sure. But I wouldn't say it's you just have the idea and then it happens. There's still a bit of effort involved. Yeah, I think when it if we think about like typographers and once how they had all these exponentially long list of hard skills, and now that you don't necessarily need to have all that, you don't have to draw everything perfectly by hand and then upload it somehow and do all these other things. Yeah, the process is simpler, but typefaces and typesets still get created by hand for the most part. It is an interesting comparison though. There are a lot of skills you need to use in work that doesn't come in AI. Exactly. Exactly. So that's just it. There's so many important skills for designers to have. You have to see yourself not as just like this person who delivers a visual, but as a strategic counterpart who's the advocate for the user and finding the best solution to put forward. Let's see. That's really help. Thank you. I keep hearing from PMs that I always love what I deliver, but that they want me to get involved on the product and business sides of things too. Wow, that's incredible news that like they're actively telling you they want you to get more involved. Oh, my video, I just posted, this is perfect. I just posted a video on TikTok where it literally there's this evolution in every designer's career, at least if there's opportunities in the company you work for, that it starts to go from like the thing you did, like talking about the thing you just delivered, the visual you delivered, to is your name coming up in strategy conversations? Do people look to you for direction? Stuff like that. So it sounds you're on that path, which is really cool. So there's some really awesome opportunities ahead of you. And you've obviously already shown a bit of your thinking around the product and business side of things if they're thinking about how to involve you earlier. As a true hallmark of a designer being successful is being included earlier in the conversation because it's still so much the case that we're just involved after so much thinking has already been done, so many decisions are already been made. Hey, just create this thing real quick. But if you're then a part of the actual decisions and plans and priority conversations, woo, that's where you want to be. Super nice place to be. Okay, thank you very much. Content, awesome. How should I approach a new role as a mid-level UX designer to establish authority and earn trust from the start? Wow, Maria, amazing question. I'm going to take a drink of water. So, a mid-level role, it really does depend on the level of company that you work in, like how you approach. I think I've been on here a couple times and said that it's if you work at a really big company or anywhere from a mid-level to a large company, take your time understanding the landscape of everything because larger companies are so much more complex. Typically, you own a piece of the puzzle, not the entire puzzle. So a lot of designers make the mistake of jumping in and trying to do something, but they lack that context. So people are like, yeah, we thought about this, or oh yeah, somebody else over here is doing that, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're in that type of environment, take your time. I don't mean 6, 8 months. Don't just try to do things your second week. But if you're in like a startup environment, it's a bit different because you're expected to wear so many different hats. Things have to move a lot faster, more iteratively. Try to show your value through generating ideas based off of getting up to speed really quickly on the context. What are we trying to do here? Where are we at? What's the current status? Okay, here's some ideas that I have, how we can make some progress towards these different things. What I would say is if you're establishing yourself in a new role, you really want to present your value. So you don't just want to deliver a bunch of stuff fast. You want to ensure you have the quality there, but you also have the challenging and critical thought behind it. So the better you can understand in both of those kind of situations, the better you can understand what the goals of your team and therefore maybe the company is trying to achieve and start to communicate how you can contribute to that. you will be absolutely golden. So that's how definitely how you can establish authority and then also earn trust because it's like, I'm a team player, I'm here. What are you working on? How can I help? Really go in with that mentality, especially if you work with a product team or a squad, whatever other companies call them. And you go to your PM not like somebody who's going to challenge and question everything, but say, what are you trying to do? How can I help? And then you frame every idea that you have with that consideration of that, you'll be super solid. It'll be super nice. Okay. I have a funny story because we were talking about AI. It's a very short story, but I was just doing these workshops and we were using AI, like a Gemini, whatever, in the workshop itself to generate ideas rather than the classic, like, let's all use our human brains to think through these concepts and put them on a sticky board or whatever. The facilitator had actually created some prompts to help us generate ideas based off of inputs from decks, research decks that we were talking about, insight decks that we were talking about, whatever. And really interestingly, I literally said this in the session because we did have a part two where before we got into AI, we used our human brain and generated some ideas before that. And then it was like we could either take that list of ideas and flesh it out with AI, or we could start blank and take all this data, take all these inputs, and then generate us the best ideas that will help us achieve the thing we're trying to achieve. I even said in that workshop when we were doing a little bit of the end retro thing, or we were talking about our ideas, I said, if I have to be honest, I think the ideas that we've come up with as people in this room are far better than what AI had actually generated because we had the subject matter expertise. What AI came up with was really quite obscure and not super tangible. And keep in mind, this was like 25 different people with different levels of understanding or experience using LLMs. But regardless, even the most advanced people didn't really generate the greatest ideas, or AI actually generated some of our human ideas and just reinforced it. But the biggest takeaway from everybody in that workshop was that AI wasn't that helpful in generating innovative, tangible ideas that would work in the context that we are trying to make them work in. And therefore, the second workshop of that project, we took a big aspect of the AI out and we just used it to better articulate our human generated ideas. I think it's quite fascinating because we talk a lot about how AI is going to take over everything. And straight up, we had 30 people trying to have it take over things, and it did not result better than the ideas we'd already come up with. So, yeah, I think that's interesting. Okay, we have a product manager in here. I just have to clap for this because I think it's Sol, if I'm saying your name correctly. You're the kind of PM who wants a designer involved. We love that. We absolutely love that. Claps for all PMs who actually want to include their designer in the initial phases of product planning and prioritization and all these different things, like using their designer as a strategic thinker. Absolutely, just love it. Love your content, find it super useful. Awesome. Always glad to hear that. Cool. Okay, over on YouTube, let's see. Look, I'm like looking like an old person, like I can't. Okay. I do that, hit them with the UX terms and therefore, yeah. I think AI will supercharge us, but not make us obsolete. People most of the time don't know what they want, and AI created designs are super generic. Yeah, exactly. Also, I feel like I talk enough about how AI is actually going to change the things that we can design. Because, like you're saying here, like a lot of designs right now, super static. Maybe for large archetypes or segments, you can alter the design a little bit, but personalization is super rudimentary at the moment. Even everything that Apple came out with, there's still so much to build that memory and then do something smart with it. But we will have to design as UX designers. We need to know how to create these like modularly changing like experience that might be different for every individual user and how to create that flexibility and framework within the interface. I don't hear that talked about enough. I hear a lot about how AI is like, it's in our process or it's going to take over our jobs, make us obsolete, but not how it's going to like really alter the landscape and understand we have to have in order to even design for products. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. What is the need of the hour to land a senior designer role? Super broad, super open question. There is no singular definition of a senior designer role. I do have an article on Medium. I think it was super popular actually. The difference between a junior, senior. No, that's not right. Junior, mid-level, and senior. I can just link it. You're on YouTube. Let me just link it to you. It kind of very broad strokes does break down the skill set needed for each. But at the end of the day, and I'm pretty sure I caveat this in the article as well, is it really only matters in the types of jobs that you're applying for. There is no broad strokes definition that all companies adhere to. So you're better and taking the job descriptions you think you suit, or that seem interesting to you, and running an analysis on like the pattern of skills that you see them like requiring. Actually, I have a whole skill assessment guide on my website if you wanted to go do that, and you can even use ChatGPT to do it. But it would be super helpful for you to look at ideal positions. Yeah, here it is. Skill gaps. Look at your ideal positions and then run a bit of an analysis to see what patterns come out in terms of what they're requiring. And then you generally know what a senior in the companies you actually want to work for requires. That's the way to do it, because I can't just say, if you do these 10 things, you will be a senior, because there's no industry standard. And that's just how it is. Okay, let's see. What would you do now if you were a person making a switch to the industry? If I was making a switch into the industry? If I was in another industry making a switch into the design industry? Is that the question? The person passed boot camp, made a base portfolio, and has experience in 3D and communication design. And now everyone screams that everything is doomed and falling apart or will be in 2 years, and feels like any job is too far away. Okay. Interesting. You can take the doom and gloom approach. I don't know what the 3D designer industry looks like at all. I don't know what jobs are looking like there, but 3D design seems like illustration design, seems like everything that's an extracurricular that's easily cut because it's not an absolute necessity. It doesn't necessarily it isn't a big revenue driver a lot of the time. So easy, I think easy for one of those things. Easily one of those disciplines that does get cut from a company who is lowering budgets. So I'm not sure exactly what you mean by shifting into the industry. Are you looking to go from 3D to UX design, or are you just getting into 3D design? I need a little bit more information. But yeah, everything is falling apart. A general statement I could say to this is that for the people who have the privilege and advantage to stick it out and to land jobs, which might take a bit more time than it would have 5 years ago or something, you will be highly rewarded for the most part. It's a very lucrative career to be in. It can be a very flexible career depending on what kind of approach you take. It can enable a really good quality of life and style, depending on what country you work in. So there's a lot of pros if you are privileged enough to stick it out. Now, that's not the case for everybody. You might need a job, a salary, you might need to pay rent like today. And if it would be a scary time if you're in that position where I need an income immediately, that it is right now. But I will say I've seen some very promising messages recently from junior designers who are landing jobs. They're landing internships. Had somebody from Romania message me that he's getting multiple offers from the UK and Germany, and he was struggling on which one to choose. I had another junior designer say that they just accepted a very high paying opportunity. So, yeah, I know that especially with the en masse of content out there, it is very doom and gloom. But if you look at the statistics as well, UX and product design roles are one of the highest growing positions. If you look at, I think it's Glassdoor and Indeed and some of these other big job listing places, those headlines of roles are growing. The demand for them has been growing year over year post pandemic, like crazy in pandemic, down, but we're back to a point where we're steadily growing again. So again, it's all about, can you stick it through? Are you in the position to? And you just have to weigh up the pros and cons of that. And if it's something you're really passionate about as well, and you don't just want to get into it to, I don't know, because it seems cool or easy, especially if it seems easy, definitely don't. Because it won't be. It won't be easy. And a lot of what people sell about how easy it is are putting on a persona. Okay, so you are looking to get into UI UX from probably 3D. So how would you make that switch? Yeah, you have to act like a junior designer. You have to start from the basics. You will already have a large step up. You will understand design principles. You'll understand a lot. But yeah, I do highly recommend, if you're trying to make that transition, to go through, and I pulled this up specifically because I knew it would come up. You want to go through the free resources like this learning guide that I've put together. Again, there's probably some stuff you can skip in there because you'll already have a fundamental understanding. But 3D design is very different than UX and UI design. And you should, sorry, I'm just reading a comment that says, maybe I need to leave the US, which like, I am an American, if you didn't catch on to my accent, I am an American who has left the US back in 2017, just as an FYI, if you're curious. Sorry, I need to reposition. So yeah, if you're looking to transition, you have to start as if you know nothing as a designer, and then any of the steps that you come across that you need to know, but you already know, then you can skip. But as much as you can, I always advise people to start free because there's so much free content out there. Get to a point where you really confidently know you want to make this direction and can make this direction, and then start to probably invest a little bit more based off of your position. I always say you have to consider your learning style, accountability. How much guidance do you actually want? Or are you a personality who can do the self-taught route? So there's a bunch of stuff to consider in there as you're making the transition. Okay, I'm seeing a lot more staff product designer job postings. Is a staff designer in between a senior and a principal? It's so messy. It's so messy because I've seen a staff designer like in label be everything from what a design manager is to effectively a principal designer, which is just an IC who doesn't have reports. A staff designer to me, in name alone, is somebody who staffs design, who is a design manager, who has direct reports. That is not necessarily what everybody uses it as. So I unfortunately cannot answer this because every company might treat it quite differently. But yeah, you'll see everything from a staff designer being a design manager, having that direct reports, to being something like a high level individual contributor like myself, who is a principal designer. And that's just the unfortunate reality. There's no one and done. Yeah. Yeah, it is super confusing. It's this, yeah, because we've got lead designers, staff designers. The industry has always just been so messy. Like even principal designers as well, very vast, different definitions in every different companies, different roles and responsibilities. So at the end of the day, it's just try your best not to care about titles at all and purely just skip it and then look at the roles and responsibilities and what it actually says. Because it's a nightmare. It's absolutely a nightmare out there. Do you recommend studying at a university or some sort of academic as a UX designer? Caveat, I pursued my master's degree and then quit. So that should tell you that I actually do not recommend studying but also keep in mind, I came from the States where education is obscenely expensive. So maybe it's a little bit more accessible to you. Maybe you could consider it. But what I will say is that a true, actual academic bachelor's degree, some sort of very university degree, will not put you ahead of somebody who is self taught. It just won't. It maybe I've caveat this with now because there has been people raise this. Maybe in more traditional companies, if you go banking, if you go legal, if you go somewhere where there's just this still an older mentality culture in the company, they might look at a university degree and upvote you a little bit more. But big tech companies where you can make, I guess, the most money, Silicon Valley, even mid-level tech companies, startups, the proof is in the pudding. Regardless if you have an actual degree, you have a boot camp, you have a whatever, if you can, if you prove through your portfolio, through your interviews, through your articulation of your resume, the experience and the value that you bring, that's the most important thing. A degree is not. However you deem is best to get that education and get that understanding and experience is the way to go. I personally benefited immensely from doing a brick and mortar university. I loved the guidance that I got. The accountability works really well for me. But some people really thrive through the self-taught route. But you have to have the self-drive and guidance to do that. My fear for being fully self-taught from the very beginning would be if I'm going in the wrong direction. How do I know? Which things do I absolutely need to learn to get into a role, like to get that experience to start with? So there's pros and cons, but I would say full stop, a university isn't absolutely necessary. Can it benefit you greatly? Yes, in different aspects, different circumstances. Yes. Okay. You say that you know that people junior that lend the job. Can you share their portfolio or profiles? No. Sorry, I can't. I didn't ask for them, and I think that would probably be a violation of some sort of privacy thing. But it's more so that, yeah, I think it was even maybe 2 or 3 lives ago, somebody actually just popped on here and said, "Oh, I'm a junior and I just accepted a junior position," and I think it was the UK or something like that. So sometimes messages just come through to me like that, or it might be a quick question, or yeah, a quick message that says my resource was helpful and it got me this job, something like that. But I don't go any further than that. And I don't dig into their portfolio or resume. So sorry, I don't have any actual. But actually, that being said, I do have this article that I wrote about portfolios, and I do think both of these designers were more junior. Give me a sec. You can just listen to the birds yeah. Okay. So I'm pretty sure, and I do have a TikTok video out that says something about a portfolio review, like junior edition. I would look for that. But this article really breaks down. I think both of these designers are a little bit more junior, maybe not like full junior, but a little bit more junior in their careers. So I'd maybe take a look at that if you might find that helpful. Drop it in TikTok. I don't know if links work though. Here we go. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful because it breaks down like why the different elements of it's done through kind of a research lens, like how to display research. But I think I cover quite a bit about why their case studies are really, really helpful. Or sorry, why their case studies are really good as a hiring manager, as somebody who hires loads of designers. I used to. I'm trying to find a skill set that gives me options if I have to move abroad. Is UX good for that? Yeah, I mean, there's tech everywhere. I'm a US citizen who's moved to the Netherlands, but there's also huge tech hubs in Abu Dhabi, in Tel Aviv, obviously in San Francisco, in Sydney. Those are just the ones. Cape Town. So yeah, tech can absolutely, sorry, I'm saying tech, but UX can absolutely take you abroad, is all I'm saying. What is the job market like right now? Trying to transition from illustration. It's tough. I think illustration's probably more tough for sure. Ooh, but you will be very powerful as a designer who can do illustrations and UX UI. You will be positioned quite nichely, but it's tough. Straight up, it's tough out there. Some designers are excelling. It also depends on your local market, depending on where you're applying for. But yeah, I wouldn't say that it's easy breezy. So I would say buckle up if you're trying to transition for sure. Is it doable? Is it possible? Are there more opportunities than being in illustration? Full stop. Absolutely yes. No question. And also, you will be uniquely positioned as an illustrator. Sorry, as a UX UI designer who can do illustrations. Yeah, that'll be really good position for you to be in. Do you feel yeah, I think we talked about this already, but do you feel UX design is in danger due to there being an abundance of website builder sites? Yeah, we talked about this a little bit. The kind of necessity for our skill set to have a heavy visual ground up building ability is going to be less. I don't think UX design as a discipline or as a career is at risk. I think it will evolve and change, just like it did when mobile apps came out, just like it did when responsive design became a thing, just like when so many advances in tech have continuously happened over time. But our actual jobs are not necessarily at risk. Aspects of our job are a little bit more at risk, but not the overarching value of a UX designer. Just like I was saying before, UX design positions are actually ones that are growing in demand if you look at statistics. Okay, Paul really wants to talk about Apple design. I saw there was an earlier question about it, about the newest iOS. What do you guys think first? What do you think? Thumbs up, thumbs down, glassmorphic. What are we feeling? I know what I'm feeling. What are you guys feeling? Also, my phone might die on TikTok, so if I abruptly leave, actually, I should probably try to plug it in. How do I do that? Because I've got my mic hooked up right now. Meh. Love it. Feels reductive. Okay. Okay. On iOS, I don't like it because it looks horrible for accessibility. I do like it on macOS a bit more. Okay. Okay, keep them coming. Tell me what you think about the new iOS update. Audio is about to get really bad on TikTok, but I do have to plug my phone in. So we have to make sacrifices, everyone. Sorry if that was insanely loud and annoying. So you're also gonna be crooked. This is just what you get, okay? Yeah. So yeah, I am agreeing with Leanne, and my feeling is it's very meh. I've been in design long enough that Apple has done many things. And yes, they set a lot of the trends for a lot of stuff. And then people follow and it's whatever. But it is very meh. Trends come and go. These types of styles from glassmorphic to skeuomorphic to flat to whatever. We've been through it, guys. This isn't yeah, there are some issues with the accessibility that they have clearly not thought through or worked out. That is concerning, but realistically, if I'm being perfectly honest, I could not care less. I could not care less. Maybe I'll struggle on some of the different Apple OSs for a little bit, but then I'll completely forget about it unless it's really bad, unless it is literally white text on a white background and they don't alter it that way. But it's just, yeah, these trends come and go, and it's nice and it's big at the moment, but then everybody for the most part forgets about it until the next trend is released, and then everybody has a really strong opinion, but then mostly they acquiesce. Or sometimes big companies have retracted their designs because that once it's out in the public, there are too many flaws with it. Maybe we see that. Let's see. What is okay. Something's happening on TikTok. I don't know if it's freezing or what. Hang on, 2 seconds. Oh yeah, it might be broken. Yeah, we just lost. Oh, no, I was able to resume. Oh, okay. I'm back. I guess that worked. I don't know. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know. TikTok's like breaking apparently. I'm talking bad about glassmorphic and it doesn't like me anymore. But yeah, like I was saying, I literally could not care less about the new OS design. And a lot of people have a lot of opinions about it. And I used to early in my career, it was like, oh, this is going to affect. I got to keep up with the trends. But realistically, the companies that a lot of the designers work for, the Amazons, the Facebooks, maybe actually the Facebook might follow, the TikToks, the mid-level companies, even banks, stuff like that, they don't give a rat's ass about what iOS is doing. They want something that's going to work. I think what kind of Apple's trend setting does is if you don't have some semblance towards it, then your product can look outdated. And I think there's this general fear for products to look outdated and stuff like that. But if it's to the sacrifice of any business metrics or numbers or usability, they won't adopt it. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on OS is I just literally couldn't care less until it impacts my day to day. It will not impact my anything as a designer. I work for a Fortune 100 company. I guarantee they won't it's not going to change what I do in my product day to day. Maybe some of our illustration styles maybe will change to incorporate a little bit of looking more modern, but I doubt it. I really doubt it. But yeah, that's what Apple thinks. And then some very trendy sites, sometimes startups will follow that trend. And then as a designer, you really need to figure out how to execute that design brilliantly, but it's rare. Like for the most part, even when we've gone through skeuomorphic, glasswork, all these different morphic trends and stuff like that, it's just to look a little bit more modern, but at the end of the day, the bottom line for the business, the bottom line for the user benefit far surpasses like any kind of like trendy look kind of thing. So anyways, that's my long rant on Glassmorphic. I was just like rolling my eyes so hard when all the reactions and stuff were coming out. Some of it was super valid. Like the accessibility things is concerning. And it is cool that they're trying the first time for the first time really trying to adapt their entire ecosystem. Like I can't even imagine how challenging that is for how large Apple is. So there's some pinged my like interest and that's interesting. Wonder how they're doing that. But for the most part, like as a designer, I don't care. They don't care. Okay, I think I'll answer this one last question. We're at about an hour now. And then I think this will be the last question of the live. So thank you guys for joining so much. Okay, Paul's first thoughts is that it was boring. I don't think it's boring. Particularly think, I forget the name that they called it, but the interaction model of, yeah, how the elements move with your touch and stuff like that. I think that's actually very interesting. The style, the actual just like visual style, it's like, yeah, it's okay. Like we've seen, like Glassmorphic's been around for quite some time anyways. But the interaction and like the response of some of the elements, I think is very not boring and super interesting. But yeah, Glassmorphic is very meh, like Leanne said. Okay, how do you manage your time between your job and creating content for UX Survival Guide? I don't have a life. No, I manage. I used to be like it kind of ebbs and flows, honestly, because in my particular role, I basically we determine like what's the most strategic and important thing across the entire organization of our product space. And then I'm put on that. So sometimes that's a lot of stuff. And then sometimes that's not very much stuff. Like right now, the first 6 months of the year, when we're getting into like the annual planning phase for the next year, which sounds crazy, I'm very busy because I'm interacting with our C-suite VPs when they're trying to make plans and then get big money from our board and stuff like that. And I need to be involved in those projects. But then the second half of the year, when some of those decisions have been made, it's a little bit lighter. It's a little bit like my role is quite a bit of an overseeing role. I give a lot of creative direction versus a lot of doing. So it's a little bit more balanced than it used to be, which was significantly more doing. But I would say it doesn't feel as hectic or crazy as it used to. And that's actually why I started Survival Guide at the time that I did, because it just felt like I wanted more. I wanted to give more to the design community. I wanted to interact with designers more because also in my role, I'm pretty much a lone wolf. I float around. I'm not dedicated to a team. I don't see people like the same set of people regularly. So yeah, I just got to a point where I really wanted to contribute my many years of experience and knowledge to more people because I was doing like one-on-one mentorship and I was like, this isn't scalable. So as saturated in like how many like courses, templates, all those other things are out there for better or for worse in quality in content, I wanted to contribute my knowledge to that. And so I'm just super fulfilled by both and that gives me energy to do both. So I'll be sitting on my couch watching Netflix while I'm creating my content calendar and then I just spend the time like outside of work to do that because I enjoy it. So it's my 5 to 9, as influencers say. It's not a very good answer, but yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for the questions. Super good. I want to say, yeah, please go check out my website. I will link it here. I actually have just uploaded a bunch of new resources within the past like week or so. So go browse, see if anything triggers your interest. I've got some guides on there, but I've also just got links to a bunch of content that I've written and stuff that can help you out depending on where you are. I highly recommend joining my Substack just because that's where the gold is for me right now. I'm like really enjoying writing the structure that I have over there. It's super practical. There's always a takeaway that you can try to implement into your work if the situation makes sense for you. So yeah, really appreciate you guys here. And then I'm working on some stuff that particularly around kind of product and business understanding and utilizing that like through your design process. I'm cooking up a challenge that I'm going to hopefully be launching like September time. Keep your eyes open. That's all I'm saying. Just dropping a note. But I'm super excited about it. And I'm also collaborating with, I think right now I have 6 to 8 other UX designers / content creators who's going to join me in creating the challenge. So should be super cool. All right. Thank you guys. And I'll see you on the next one, hopefully. All right. Thanks.